hello, and welcome to episode number 459 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I am Carlos, and in this week's show, the Dreamliner develops some more issues. Free onboard Wi-Fi, is this a good thing or a bad move? And who fancies buying their own private party jet? Yes, you heard me right. In the military news this week, the US Air Force is looking for ways to navigate without GPS, and the elusive E-6 command and control aircraft is getting an upgrade. And joining me this week, well, Armando unfortunately can't make it this week. He's slowly making his way back home to Charlotte from the Reno Air Race Pylon Racing School and won't be with us, but hopefully he'll be back with us very soon. But joining me over in the PTUK Master Suite studios at a balmy 25 degrees Celsius, it's Matt Smith.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Yes, it is quite warm in here today. Honestly, we get one day where the sun comes out and it's roasting in here. Rustin.
Did I hear correctly on our local radio station this morning, Mr. Smith, that we're going to have a rather warm weekend this week?
That is correct, yes, absolutely, which is ideal for me because I'm going to be stuck in a procession going through the middle of Dis on Sunday. So yes, I'm very glad that it's not going to rain, although there are threats of thunderstorms. Yeah, there are threats of thunderstorms, so hopefully they can stay away until after we've done the procession, because we're all going to be in Dis Park, so don't really want to get wet if we can at all help it. But yes, indeed, yes, a good weather-wise for the whole of the weekend for most of the UK, actually, by the look of it.
Yeah, it's a balmy 18 degrees Celsius outside, which is quite nice.
I should just say this is being recorded on the 9th, Friday the 9th of June, by the way, in case you are listening.
If you're listening to this in a week's time and you're under a foot of water.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking, bit moist out. Yes, absolutely.
So, joining us across in the glorious sunny Buckinghamshire countryside, it is, of course, the man who loves his cabling, loves his tech. It's Neville Bounds.
Yes, and behind me is some tech I'm taking to work next week, so sorry about all the mess behind me. But yeah, it's been another great week, bit of flying at the start of this week to Stockholm and various other Swedish cities, and came back on Wednesday. Spoilt slightly by my neighbour in One Charlie, though. How can I describe him? Obstinate businessman type, I would say. So he sits down next to me, and of course we've got the table in between where I sit and where he sits in One Charlie. And he's got a obviously big iPad Pro, plonks it down, takes up the whole of the table more or less. Wasn't too worried about that. Had me breakfast, and then I'm thinking, I've just seen the first officer pop out to the galley. I might just go and say hello, giving me PTUK card, the usual thing that one might do on a flight.
As you do.
And without a word of a lie, this chap in One Charlie goes, well, there's already somebody in the toilet. Just like that.
What?
So I said, well, just as a matter of interest, I'm going to see the first officer, who I've just noticed over there, going to have a quick chat with him, and I may or may not use the toilet afterwards.
It's any of his business, obviously.
I think where he was coming from was that he'd seen that someone had gone into the loo and it was locked and it was engaged, and he thought I was going to jump in front of him. Well, because he wanted to go. As it happened, I did do that. But
excellent.
what an odd starting point for some people. Just
Indeed. Indeed.
I was going to say a bad word, but snotty, I think, would be
snotty is a good word, yes, absolutely. Now, you've obviously been doing a bit of flying, of course, this week, Nev, hence that story there. Someone else has been doing some flying as well as part of their holiday, of course, and the lovely Oscar, who is in the chat room. A very good evening to Oscar. Now, his mum's just sent me this picture here, which is really, really quite lovely. You are going to be so proud of Oscar here, Carlos. Brace yourself. Here we go. Look at that. That's what I like to see. Look at that. I love that expression. That's a wonderful expression on his face. He looks as confused as I would if I was sat in the cockpit, to be fair.
I must admit, Matt, when I saw this picture earlier on in the week, when that was on the social medias, and I did think to myself, He looks very good in that position. I think a left seat is where Oscar should be.
Are you
obviously start in the right seat first,
Right.
because you can't go straight in the left seat.
No.
But
I think we need to get him out of a 7.3 and onto an A320.
Oh, here we go. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like.
But a
sounds like a
7.3 is not a bad starting point, I have to say. So,
No.
Good for you, Oscar.
Absolutely.
well done, Oscar.
Let us know where you were going to, by the way, because that's the only thing. Do you know, Carlos? I don't know.
Where they're coming from?
Where they went to, yeah.
Oh, I think it was Mallorca.
Oh, was it? Nice.
Yeah, I think it was Mallorca, yeah.
Nice, lovely, excellent.
But actually, Oscar, when I see you next, I have got, as promised, your guide vane from a jet engine here.
Oh, hello.
Which you can see, Oscar, on the screen there.
Okay.
So when I see you next, I shall be giving you this wonderful piece of titanium.
Oh, dear.
There
Honestly,
we go.
It's poor mum mum and dad I'm worried about, who've got to try and find all this money for these ideas you're giving him. Honestly,
I know. Well, I keep trying to persuade his mum to buy some more pieces of airplane.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
We do our service here on PTUK.
Right.
Let's have a look and see who's joined us in the chat room this evening. Let's go top of the list. Richard Adams, hello to you, Richard Adams. He's already on the beer, hopefully. Hobby Time, hello to you. Mazouz, our local listener, Mazouz, good to see you in there. Oscar is obviously in there. He's settled in for the evening. We have got Nick Codling. Hello, Nick. He's literally in the Zoom call with us now. We have got, scrolling down, Lee Davies. Hello to you, Lee. Good to see you in the chat room as well. Let me scroll down. Masha, hello to you, Masha. Hope you're enjoying the nice weather we're having here in the UK as well. Bill, hello to Bill. Good
Masha doesn't live in the UK, right?
Well, in Europe, you know what I mean. Captain Ridiculous Wits. Always good to see Captain Ridiculous Wits in the chat room as well. Dirk S. barely made it, apparently. He's in there, though. Don't panic.
Well done.
Good to see you in the chat room as well. Puebla Champ. Hello from Mexico. He's joining us from Mexico this evening. Hello to you, Puebla. Good to see you.
What's the time in Mexico right now?
I don't know, mate. It must be...
Probably 6 hours behind us, I would have thought.
Okay. All right, not too bad. Not too bad.
John Jester, he is also joining us in the chat room as well, one of our members of the PTUK family as well. Good to see you in there, and everyone who's joined us tonight. Don't forget, if you're listening to our glorious voices on an audio podcast, don't forget to check us out on YouTube to find out just how stunningly gorgeous we all look in the flesh. You can find us on there. Just search for Plain Talking UK. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell icon as well, which is right next door, to be notified when Matt is pressing the go live button with a new episode. It's as easy as that. Now, we've got tons to get through on the show tonight, literally tons of stuff, what with segments to play out. And we've also got our book competition, the winner of the book this week we've got to announce, because we had loads of entrance into that, and our caption this has also been very popular this week as well. So commercial news time, everyone, if the team is ready.
Oh yes,
let's go.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So this week's first story comes to us from edition.cnn.com. And Air India passengers who were stranded in Russia land back in San Francisco. Now, an Air India flight this week sent there to the remote Russian city of Madigan to pick up stranded passengers has landed back safely in San Francisco, the airline said yesterday. They said all the passengers are being extended to a maximum on-ground assistance with the clearance formalities and provided other necessary support, Air India wrote on Twitter. Earlier in the week, Air India flight AI-173 from New Delhi to San Francisco had been diverted due to a technical issue with one of the aircraft's engines. It landed in Russia's Magadan airport in the country's Far East, carrying 216 passengers and 16 crew. In a statement Wednesday, Tuesday, Air India said a ferry flight took off from Mumbai to take passengers back to San Francisco, was subject to necessary clearances. There are no Air India staff in the remote town of Madigan. Instead, the airline said support was provided to the passengers through round-the-clock liaison with the Consulate General of India in Vladivostok, a city around 5,000 kilometres south of Magadan, as well as India's Ministry of External Affairs, local ground handlers and Russian authorities. Russia has banned numerous Western countries from operating in its airspace, though some carriers like Air India continue to fly over Russia. The United States said earlier this week that it was monitoring the situation, and they said we were aware of a US-bound flight that had to make an emergency landing in Russia, and they were continuing to monitor the situation closely. Patel would not say if the US would need to exempt any replacement parts for the plane from its sanctions on Russia, and the diversion came amid a debate about the use of Russian airspace by some carriers. Air India's CEO defended the use of the Russian airspace on Monday, telling an airline summit that we operate in accordance with the ambit of what is provided to us by the nation of India, he added. And meanwhile, the United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby on Monday predicted possible dangers of an aircraft being forced to land in Russia with American citizens on board while speaking to reporters. I suppose it's one of those things that, guys, with what's going on in Russia, obviously we know from news reports that the Russian airline Aeroflot is struggling for replacement parts for its Airbus and Boeing fleet because, well, they're just not able to purchase any new parts or second-hand parts. So I think if you're an aircraft that has to divert in an emergency, obviously, which is what this one was, if you've got to put down somewhere, you've got to put down somewhere. And if it happens to be Russia, then that's life. I think.
I mean, I assume obviously with what's going on that scenarios like this haven't changed. If you see what I mean. So if there is a if you do have an air emergency, you can still sort of like touch down in wherever is safest to do so, even if that is a country that's heavily under embargo.
Nev?
Well, I think I was watching a documentary, I forget what it was, a few weeks ago, about the way they were discussing how different airlines, or how airlines in general, have to deal with different countries and overflying rights and permissions. And of course, all we do is buy a ticket and get on the aircraft. But all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, in some cases, is massively complicated, with countries that are barely speaking to each other. And obviously, this is one of those situations, isn't it? But I think there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there to ensure that the people could divert if they had to. But the protocol involved with that, I'm sure, is very complicated.
Indeed.
Matt, you've got the next story.
Yep.
Obviously, Ryanair, and they've done some exciting things this week, haven't they?
Under duress, I think, is probably the way to describe that. So it's the independent.co.uk where I go for all of my aviation-related news. Obviously, the Ryanair cancels 400 flights in Europe due to French air traffic control strikes. Oh, goody. Ryanair has been forced to cancel 400 flights as a result of strikes by French air traffic controllers. The airline's boss has said, as he urged the European Union to take action. The mass cancellations across Europe on Tuesday, representing 1 in 8 scheduled flights by the continent's largest airline, are merely the latest to be grounded by industrial action, with walkouts at airports blamed by Ryanair for more than 4,000 cancellations so far this year. As thousands of would-be passengers saw their travel plans cast into disarray on Tuesday, livid holidaygoers described finding themselves stranded in airports and forced to find last-minute accommodation as they expressed their dismay on social media. In a furious message, Ryanair's chief executive Michael O'Leary criticised the utterly indefensible move to cancel overflights passing through French airspace, as he accused authorities there of prioritising domestic flights. Air traffic controllers joined other unions as hundreds of thousands of protesters took to the streets across France on Tuesday in protest at President Emmanuel Macron's raising the retirement age by 2 years to 64. 64? We dream of such a low retirement age, as some demonstrators stormed the headquarters of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. While France's Civil Aviation Authority asked airlines to cancel a third of the flights out of Paris Orly, the capital's number 2 airport, the air traffic control strikes forced hundreds of overflight cancellations as the staff required to guide planes through French airspace also walked out. Ryanair has been pushing for European Commission to force France to protect overflights during such strikes, having last week submitted a petition, Mr. O'Leary said, was signed by over 1.1 million of our very fed-up customers. In a video message posted to Twitter, the airline boss said, again today we have had to cancel just about 400 flights out of the 3,200 flights we'd scheduled to operate. All of these flights have been cancelled because of French ATC strikes. The vast majority of these are overflights and not going into France. I won't go into more details there, but it's now forgive my naivety here, but this unfortunately does happen quite a lot, doesn't it?
Strikes, yeah.
The strikes in French air traffic control. Now, if it was, let's say BA, because hopefully Nev might be able to answer this question if I say BA, but you don't have to use French airspace in order to get somewhere, do you?
It depends where you're going. I mean, if you want the shortest route, you're going south, you probably do.
Yes, but if you're going to take some passengers somewhere, for example, so let's use BA as a model. I would. Am I naive in assuming that if it was BA, for example, they would take that longer route because they'd rather do that than inconvenience their passengers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, that obviously adds to flight time and fuel costs and the potential for delays and holding, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just, but France is quite a big country, so
right.
It's quite a big detour very often.
Okay.
If you're going to Italy or somewhere like that, or further down into the Med, that's quite a big
fair.
diversion,
Okay,
really,
that's all right.
yeah. But no, but as Masha said, it's probably easier to work out when they're not on strike as to when. Well, they are.
Quite. Yes, this is the thing. It's a regular thing, isn't it? Let's be honest here. That's more the reason why I'm asking that question, because you think, because it does happen so frequently, and of course you can't just cancel all the flights. It's just like, I just wondered if it was because essentially Ryanair weren't willing to do an extended
I think where
diversion.
things go badly wrong, of course, is where the flight is originating from France, or maybe you've got a connection. Say you were going to go from Manchester to Paris for a flight to, I don't know, New York, and you decided that's how you were going to do it. That has messed up the second sector of your flight considerably, hasn't it? So it's those sort of situations which are difficult, or as I say, flights that are actually beginning from the capital or further down the country. So this is not going to be solved quickly. It's been going on for decades, and I don't think it's going to be solved in a hurry, because it never is.
Mind you, at the moment we're not really in much of a strong position to talk about to sort of complain, really, I suppose, because
there are things going on.
There's lots of striking going on here as well. Let's be honest. So yes, it's a funny old time at the moment, isn't it?
Yep.
Indeed.
Yep.
So. Next story, Nev, moving on, and I just think every week now this is just becoming a regular occurrence here with the Dreamliner.
Yes, I thought we were going to go into a KC-46 story for a minute, but this is on simpleflying.com. It says that Boeing has discovered new issue that affects near-term 787 deliveries. Well, nearly 100 787s set to be delivered by Boeing could be delayed due to a newly discovered production concern. The plane manufacturer confirmed the issue on Tuesday, saying that the affected planes will be fixed before delivery. The production flaw does not result in any safety issues of Dreamliners currently in service, but adds to the number of challenges Boeing has faced with the wide-body jet. Similar to the other concerns, the FAA have been made aware of the issue. In a statement to Simple Flying, Boeing noted that the issue is related to the aircraft's stabilizer. We're inspecting 787s in our inventory for a non-conforming condition related to a fitting of the horizontal stabilizer. airplanes found to have this non-conforming condition will be reworked prior to ticket and delivery. The affected component in production is not produced by Boeing, but by a third-party supplier. But the company said that the attachment fitting is installed on the Dreamliner's horizontal stabilizer at a Boeing facility in Salt Lake City in Utah. The horizontal stabilizer, essential to the appropriate balance of the aircraft's aerodynamics, is located in the rear of the plane, just under the tail. According to Reuters, Boeing discovered that the attachment fitting had shimming that was not appropriately sized, which did not meet the required specifications. Shimming is a material that fills gaps between surfaces on aircraft, and these aircraft were set to be delivered but were suspected of the issue. They were reportedly to be stopped on Friday of last week. Correspondingly, 90 Dreamliners currently in Boeing's inventory will undergo an inspection before being delivered, and the manufacturer expects that repairing the faulty stabilizers will take up to a couple of weeks for each affected aircraft, which would impact deliveries scheduled within the month. Boeing's technical team is working to understand the full work statement to rework inventory airplanes prior to delivery, says Jim Prohl, Senior Media Relations Advisor of Boeing Commercial Airplanes. It is early and we are still finalising the rework plan, but we'd expect to be able to complete the rework within a couple of weeks per airplane. With the current timeline of repairs, the company does not anticipate that deliveries in the long term will be impacted, but whilst the inspections and required rework will affect the timing of near-term 787 deliveries, at this time we do not expect that this issue will change our full-year guidance regarding 787 deliveries, Prohl explained. Current aircraft in service worldwide can still operate, as Boeing shared that the issue does not pose any immediate concerns to flight safety. The company also contacted the FAA and airlines with the aircraft in operation to inform them of the problem, saying it will keep them informed of any progress. It's unclear what caused the production flaw, how many of the 90 jets in inventory will need to be repaired, or if any in-service aircraft need to be fixed. It comes as Boeing just increased 787 productions to 4 planes a month from 3 last week, according to Reuters. This issue is the latest challenge involving the 787. In March, the FAA cleared Boeing to resume deliveries after halting them in February due to an issue relating to the fuselage. Then in April, the agency ordered aircraft inspections after discovering leaky faucets in the lavatories. Well, better to find out now before it's delivered and before it starts flying for real than having to do a recall or have an in-flight safety moment, I would have thought. I mean, this does happen quite a lot with relatively new aircraft. I seem to remember that the 747 back in the day went through a lot of changes, during the early parts of production, and airworthiness directives and various things like that. But ever since, the 787 battery issue, I suppose, back at Heathrow and other places as well, the spotlight's always on this aircraft, isn't it? So, a bit like the MAX, but for different reasons.
I was just looking there to see when the Dreamliner first flew. It was December 2009.
Was it really?
Yeah, the Dreamliner first flew. So, yeah.
Wow.
But it makes you wonder, doesn't it, whether, obviously, because the 777X is now the next big thing for airlines and cargo as well, whether they're going to have issues with that. But bear in mind, the 777X is obviously they're coming off the back of the very popular 777, which is already a well-proven and well-established airliner, whereas the Dreamliner was a completely new, clean sheet, wasn't it, Nev, when it was first conceived?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And John Falk makes a very good point, I think. It says, given the complexity of aircraft manufacture, it's amazing we get any rolling off the production line, isn't it? Also,
that is true.
Especially with the new composite materials that are being used on those aircraft. So, it's a massive... I think we still need to remember it's a massively complicated thing with high levels of certification. And frankly speaking, even though there's, occasional incidents and sometimes accidents, the safety rate with new aircraft delivered today is extremely high. So it is good that they're catching these things before they take to the skies, obviously.
Very true. So moving on to next story. And Nev, would you say airfares have increased in price much in the last year or so?
Yes, I think it all depends on what who you're booking with and all the rest of it. But yes, I would say in the last 12 months, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, this comes from theguardian.com. And international airfares likely to keep rising, says Aviation Group. So international airfares likely to keep climbing from their current highs over the next 10 to 15 years, with the cost of sustainable fuels expected to drive up ticket prices, according to the global airlines body IATA. Extraordinary demand for travel since COVID pandemic has led to steep fare rises on many routes, and IATA said consumers could expect to pay more as airlines increase the usage of scarcer, greener jet fuels in response to the government's mandates to cut aviation carbon emissions. Willie Walsh, the Director General of IATA, the former Chief Executive of British Airways, said we are going to require more and more SAF, or sustainable aviation fuel, which means more and more expense. While Willie Walsh said that some economists believe sustainable fuels could eventually become cheaper than kerosene, he added that he says in the next 10 to 15 years, we are looking at significant increase in fuel costs unless there is some compensating reduction in other costs. And I don't see that happening, he says. Then people have to expect that there will be an increase in the average fares as we go forward in time. He added it'll mean higher fares because sustainable aviation fuel is more expensive than your traditional jet kerosene, and as we transition to net zero, it's going to be costing some money. Airline costs have been driven up significantly as oil prices soared after Russia's invasion of the Ukraine, as well as the high labour costs. And Walsh also pointed to constrained capacity due to the lack of spare parts, which have left some airlines unable to operate at their full fleets. Despite the much higher fare prices having to pay on many routes this summer, IATA said its analysts showed fares worldwide were still around 2019 levels in real terms, and the start of 2023 having lagged behind inflation over the course of the pandemic. Last year, Matt's favourite Ryanair said the era of ultra-cheap flying was over. The coming impact of SAFs was suggested in a recent update of the UK Sustainability Aviation Roadmap to net zero by 2050, which relies largely on offsetting SAFs and replacing fleets with more fuel-efficient aircraft to slash net emissions. It projected that fewer people would fly in coming decades as a result of the prices being out and a demand reduction impact that would account for around 14% of the required cuts to hit the target. However, airlines are reporting a rise in custom despite higher prices. And the president of Emirates Airlines, Sir Tim Clark, said the eye-opening demand for air travel, even in premium cabins at high fares, defied economic wisdom. He added that over the winter last year, for every seat we sold, another 5 people wanted it. We could have put it out to auction if we wanted to, he said. And I'd like to have seen that. People who used to fly the old fare levels are piling in at the new fare levels, and it just doesn't seem to make the sense the way we used to understand it, he said. All I know is that we are moving, so we'll take it. Clark, whose airline was notable opponent of the capacity cuts imposed at London Heathrow last summer, warned the British government it needed to do more to support international aviation. Clark said the UK needs all the help it can get, and if it's going to work with Brexit, and you've seen, he said, "Yeah, boo, Europe, it's not where we need to be, but we need to be in China, India, Australia, America, then you've got to move people and goods to those places. So airline capacity is vital. If that's lost on the government of the UK, they will pay the price," he said. Well, I have to say, having looked at the bums on seats, to say, on both the flights that I took out to the US a few weeks ago, I can tell you now that both those 777s that I flew out and in on were rammed. There was every seat sold, and they were even resorting to asking passengers to check their hand luggage in to the hold to save space. But yeah, the flights were full. I mean, I don't know what it's like with you, Nev, going obviously around Europe with the flights that you're travelling. Are you seeing the seats all filled?
Yeah, I mean, and people are paying the price. Obviously, there's been some price increases. I think I would take issue with Tim Clark, and I don't want to get political, obviously, but I don't know what the UK government's supposed to do about aviation prices. I mean, oil prices, operational costs, and all those things. You know, it is what it is, and there's no subsidy going on in this country, certainly, unlike some other countries. However, I wouldn't have thought he could complain, because I would imagine all of Emirates' flights are also fully booked. And overbooked, as he kind of points out. So, I think it's got to the stage where passengers are going, well, okay, I know it was £200 last year, it's £300 this year, we want to go away on holiday, we're just going to pay it. So
the only thing I would say, I guess in Tim's defence, perhaps, he says trying to play devil's advocate here. I know one of the things that was, I was having a conversation with someone about this during the week, actually, is that actually the flights themselves are not too bad with the tickets and stuff that I was talking about, but actually there is a frightening amount of tax that is put on those tickets here in the UK that doesn't exist sort of like in other parts of Europe, and I wonder if that's maybe what he's referring to.
Certainly, very often if you're going to fly, you want to fly London to New York, very often it's cheaper in a tax point of view to fly to Amsterdam or Frankfurt and then take the flight from there. There's no two ways about that. Yeah, there's definitely some passenger duty and all the rest of it that gets added onto your ticket if you're going point to point like that. Yeah, definitely. Indeed,
and it sort of for reasons I don't really understand. It does seem to be quite a bit higher here than it is in other parts of the world. And as I say, playing devil's advocate, I wonder if that's what Tim is perhaps referring to in this scenario. Look at me being all informed.
That Nev uses New York as an example. While you two have been chatting, I've just done a quick search, right? To go out. I mean, normally you book ahead. You book your flights ahead. You save some money. You book ahead, right? I've just done a quick search online, and I've found a direct flight from London Heathrow to New York. Obviously from London Heathrow straight to New York, direct. It's operated by United Airlines, booked through Lufthansa. And how much do you think return that's coming out at the moment for tomorrow? Flying out tomorrow, return flight to New York.
In economy.
In economy. This is economy, yeah, economy.
1,200.
Nev.
2,000.
£564.
What, return?
Return.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's flying out tomorrow. That's actually leaving tomorrow.
But is that because perhaps the flights aren't full and they're trying to...
I don't know.
That does seem surprisingly cheap.
It is ridiculously cheap. The cheap fares are out there. I think if you've got the time to sit and mess around online.
I was going to say, never mind if you've got the time to sit around. I think it's more if you've got the balls, frankly, to sit there. If you're planning to go to New York and you're going to wait till tomorrow to do it, I think that's quite...
Yeah, I mean, most people book ahead. I mean, I know, most people do.
I couldn't do that. I mean, I know people that literally don't know where they're going on holiday. They've booked some time off, and they don't know where they're going on holiday until they sit down and that. And I don't know about you, Nev, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't leave it to the last minute like that.
No, because it is a bit hit or miss, and because you never know what fare you're going to get, do you? I mean, there's just no telling.
No.
So I just assumed by going late, late booking like that, it was going to be extremely expensive.
Yeah,
just as a complete contrast, I've just changed it to business class, obviously just for Nev.
Oh. That's more like
it's more, and let me just click direct flight to New York in business class. The cheapest flight direct to New York, and this is with JetBlue, funnily enough, comes in at £4,246.
Oh my!
Cool. Okay.
It's a bit more like what we were expecting. Indeed. Now, with the next story, Nev, I wondered if I could trouble you to read it, as there's some pictures there that I'd like to share, and we have taken one of your stories away. I don't know if you've noticed. So
no, I haven't noticed, but obviously I'm happy to jump in.
Thank you.
Yes, this is on the robreport.com. It says that this Dubai hotel just unveiled a lavish private jet for parties above the clouds.
Ooh.
I wonder if Pilot Pip's yes. Well, it's this is to do with 5 hotels and resorts, from what I can gather, and they want to take partying to a new height, literally. The self-described hospitality disruptor, which helms a number of hotels and resorts in Dubai and Zurich, has just rolled out a new branded jet for private charter. Based in Dubai, 9 Hotel 5, Foxtrot Indigo Victor Echo, is available for short joyrides or longer international jaunts. Sky-high soirees aren't out of the question either, and the Fly 5 service isn't just for hotel guests. Anyone can charter the jet for up to 12 hours. Based in... sorry, I just skipped a line there. The aircraft offers plenty of space for you and your crew as well. 9 Hotel 5 is a new 220 from Airbus Corporate Jets, or what ACJ calls extra large bizjet. The spacious cabin is equipped with 16 seats, a dining table for 8, a generous suite with a king-sized bed and a shower. Other highlights, including an entertainer's kitchen and at least 3 giant 55-inch TVs. That's not giant, just pointing that out. The decor is a drastic departure from the typical business jet and is designed to emulate the vibe of a 5 hotel. The LED lights can make the entire cabin glow in any hue you like, whilst the in-flight music can create a buzzy atmosphere. That's because you've got an earth problem with one of your cables, probably. You'll also have high-speed Wi-Fi, so you can gram the whole journey. God.
Gram? Wow.
Yeah. Another bonus is that 5 is committed to offsetting the jet's annual emissions. The company will buy nature-based carbon credits to counter the pollution the aircraft produces. You needn't feel guilty about jet setting at all. It's not uncommon for hotels to have private jet programs, but the aircraft are typically reserved for more practical functions, for example, bringing guests to remote destinations. Conversely, though, 5's jet is actually designed for partying. With this customised ultra luxe immersive private jet experience like no other, 5 is once again delivering an elevated and electric customer experience for a worldwide diaspora. CEO of 5 Hospitality, Aloki Batra, said in a statement. Suffice it to say, 9 Hotel 5 does not come cheap. How surprising. The jet will cost you roughly $13,000 to $14,000 per hour, plus various relocation costs. But it's still cheaper than shelling out for your own 220.
I mean,
it
that's
looks
very true.
amazing.
It does look amazing, doesn't it? But this is essentially a private jet on steroids, isn't it? This is I mean, they're billing it as a party jet, but you could argue you could do that in virtually any Learjet or anything like that. I guess you've got the advantage of space, haven't you? But and the interior looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm loving the beds and all that kind of thing.
The colours are awesome. The LED lighting's awesome.
Yeah, indeed. I mean,
it's another level of. I mean,
if we ever win the lottery between us, then that's very true. Nick is saying that it reminds him of a Premier Inn with those purple lighting.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense.
I mean, lie flat beds in business class are nice. Don't get me wrong, but having a king size bed to sleep in on an aircraft,
I don't know if other people in.
Right. Okay. I mean, moving on. I don't know. I feel like this is a bit of a waste, though, to go to sleep. In this beautiful aircraft. I mean, if you're a businessman who's got to get from one part of the world to another, and having a nap is important, then I can absolutely see the appeal of it. But then, I don't know. I don't know. You're in that beautiful aircraft. You wouldn't have a nap.
You said, Matt. You said 14,000 an hour, didn't you? Divide that by how many people can you squeeze in here? That was 16.
Yeah.
16. So if you got with your mates, that's £875 and is it pounds?
Dollars.
In pounds? Dollars. $875 an hour each.
I mean, yeah, but it wouldn't be worth it for an hour, would it? So, you're looking at sort of and you've got to get back again, haven't you, I guess? Yeah, Billy's saying in the chat room, imagine what they charge you if you trashed the room. Very good point there. Absolutely. Terrifying thought, that.
Easy deposit, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's very nice. And as Matt said, we are all trying furiously to win the lottery each week.
Yes, indeed. So we'll have when we win the lottery, we'll have a PT UK meetup on it, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Indeed.
So moving on to the next story. Now, this next story, I found this yesterday. I think I popped this in the old script for today, and I'll be interested to hear your views on this, Matt and Nev, because obviously you guys know your tech stuff backwards and forwards anyway. So this is all from scmp.com. Singapore Airlines this week said they're going to roll out free Wi-Fi for all passengers in all classes. So that's everyone who travels on Singapore Airlines will have free Wi-Fi. They've joined a handful of carriers offering free onboard Wi-Fi to all passengers as of the 1st of July this year. Customers will now be able to browse, surf the internet without the usual charges or data limits. The in-air internet has long been awkward and messy, extra expense at usually more trouble than it's worth, even if it's available, and typically remains exclusive to those who shell out for a first class or business traveller seat. That has never sat easy with passengers, something the wealthy city-state flag carriers picked up on. Although time online has dropped compared to COVID lockdowns, when people were often left with little else to do, the world's 5 billion regular internet users were still spending over 6 hours a day surfing and scrolling back in 2022, according to We Are Social, a UK business that tracks web and social media use. At the same time, air passenger numbers are rebounding. According to the International Air Transport Association, their global passenger traffic in April 2023 was back to 90% of the pre-COVID level, meaning that the world is on track for a return to the 4.5 billion carried back in 2019, the year before the pandemic started with the imposition of restrictions on travel. Putting two and two together, carriers such as Singapore Airlines are looking to free Wi-Fi as a way to sway passengers when it comes to deciding which airline to fly with. In today's increasing hyper-connected world, high-speed in-flight Wi-Fi connectivity is one of the most important requirements for our customers, said Yeo P. Teek, the airline's Senior Vice President of Customer Service. Passengers will have to sign up for the airline's free Wi-Fi to join a loyalty program to access the Wi-Fi, similar to how some of the handful of other carriers that offer free Wi-Fi, such as Qatar Airways and Delta Airlines, operate their systems. Singapore Airlines have said the offer will apply to the 129 of its 136 aircraft, except for 7 Boeing 737-800NGs, it said, are not Wi-Fi enabled. Now, obviously, I got the chance to use Wi-Fi on the way over to the US a few weeks ago with American. It was quick. I managed to tune into the show and watch you guys when you were doing the live show on the Friday night. I watched it. Admittedly, I watched it in 720p, but I was watching the show on my phone. It was fine. But I mean, obviously, this is originally restricted to business class and first class passengers or people who want to pay the premium. This is open now to all classes. So you've got a standard flight of, I don't know what, Nev, 777, 280, 290 passengers. Yeah. What do you think the implications of having more than 200 people trying to connect to an internet service on board an aircraft?
A loss of frame rate for a start. People trying to download or stream high-res stuff unless it's restricted. And, of course, there are quite a lot. I remember going on, many journeys, actually, even on BA's journey to Stockholm this week, where their Wi-Fi just wasn't working for probably about half an hour in the journey. I think the idea is great. Whether the system has got the bandwidth capability to deal with all this stuff, bearing in mind people just don't have one device. They've probably got a phone and a tablet and, all sorts of other things. And they've got a Kindle with them, or let's download a new book whilst we're there now. I know that's not a very high res or a high bandwidth requirement for that. But, if it works, then I think it's the way forward. but it's got to be reliable. And I think if it's not, then it's just a disappointment. And of course, if it's free, people can't ask for their money back because they're just offering it without any charge, aren't they? So that's what I think anyway.
I mean, those who want to, so my two penneth for it, it's like those who want to use the premium will have paid for it regardless. I'm a bit like that, and I know I shouldn't. I should be looking out the window and all that kind of thing. But if I am in the aircraft, the novelty for me still hasn't worn off about being able to send WhatsApp videos and pictures and messages, like, from 35,000 feet. That still hasn't been lost with me. But I just... As Nev's saying there, making it available to everyone is not going to make it a good service. So everybody's going to have a very sort of degraded experience, and the majority of people who are there probably wouldn't be that fussed about having access to Wi-Fi while they're in the air, but those who do would be happy to pay the premium, and therefore as a result get a better and high quality service. So I don't know, I'm a bit sort of on the fence for this one, and as I'm sure Carlos would say, what's the matter with just sitting there and looking out the window? That's the best high res video you'll ever see.
That view was amazing.
Yeah, I bet.
The other, like a few weeks ago, it was fantastic. It really was.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean, let's see if other airlines.
Well, I know Emirates recently did a post, didn't they, saying that it's actually available on some of their routes now, premium, like free Wi-Fi and stuff on board. And because I think you've always been able to have half an hour or something like that, but it's sort of extended times and stuff.
Well,
I don't know.
Bearing in mind that Singapore operates the A380 as well, that's 450 passengers. That's an awful lot of bandwidth, isn't it?
Really? It is, yeah. Especially shared amongst everyone else, as you say.
Yeah.
Not sure on that one.
No. Well, we'll see where this goes. Perhaps when you jet off later on this year, Matt, you can give us your own tech review on the Wi-Fi.
I'll do a speed test or 12.
Yeah. Nev, you've got the next story, and we're back in BA world.
Yes, and this is also one of my favourite aircraft as well. It's on flightglobal.com, and it says the A350 is a delight in the air, says British Airways Director of Flying. If there are any cynical concerns that the advanced automation on the Airbus A350 would reduce the pilot's job to little more than computer monitoring, BA Director of Flying Captain James Basnett does not share them. The joy of flying has not been lost, he told a Royal Aeronautical Society audience on the 23rd of March, as he spoke about his impressions of the twin jet, stating that the aircraft's sophistication enables efficient performance whilst retaining the satisfaction of manual flight. Whilst entry into service with BA has been very smooth, he says that the aircraft's electronic setup for flight notably takes twice as long for that compared to an A320. The airline's reliance on paper in the cockpit has markedly declined in the last 3 or 4 years, he said, noting, "We're not quite there yet, but we're nearly there." The aircraft carries out detailed performance calculations, taking into account effects from individual system status and cross-checking figures with its expectations. Basnett says that takeoff weight limitations on the A350 are very rare, even at hot and high airports, such as Johannesburg in South Africa. It's probably true to say that once you're away from the ground, there's a sense of relief because the setup of the aircraft is time-consuming and critical, he said. Once you're in the air, though, the A350 is a delight. The primary flight displays contain so much information, he says, such as features as vertical profile, terrain and balance data, and are a step up from the A320. This requires a different approach to the traditional instrument T-scan in earlier aircraft, he adds. Once established in the cruise, the aircraft burns fuel at about 6 tonnes per hour. Basnett says that the A350 provides flight crew with information on contingency scenarios, with a what-if function giving detailed data on single-engine descents, for example, enabling the pilots to engage in more interactive preparation. The A350 has all of these tools at your behest, he says. The crew can then go into minute detail for approach planning, he said, and the A350 is really stable aircraft, both in cruise and descent. Load alleviation and flap controls are constantly doing things which are completely outside the pilot, he adds. But although a lot of information is need to know, the crew can call up systems pages to understand the jet's behaviour. Basnet stresses the benefits of the A350's brake to vacate function, which constantly updates the automatic braking requirement according to the aircraft status and runway condition. This gives the pilots surety in the runway exit after touchdown, sufficient to assist air traffic control with approach stream spacing. Although he admits it can be a bit unnerving because whilst auto braking usually begins immediately, brake to vacate optimises the deceleration timing, which means that the brakes might not activate for a few seconds after landing. British Airways has 13 A350-1000s with 250 pilots assigned to this type. Basnet says that the aircraft is one he feels at home in and argues that it is completely future-proof, already prepared for the implementation of new independent approach patterns at airports. He says that Airbus has nailed it in many ways with the A350, adding that it stands up well compared with the Boeing 777. It's a fantastic aircraft, he says. Pilots love flying it. Well, Carlos and I liked being a passenger in one.
Oh, yes.
I went to Dubai in 2019, October 2019, wasn't it? On a 3-week-old A350-1000. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
That was very nice, Nev, yeah. And
nice chat with the flight deck crew as well.
yeah, as like Nev said as well, you've said before, Nev, it is incredibly quiet as well.
Yeah.
An aircraft to be a passenger on, and yeah, I've been lucky, as like Nev has, to have flown on the 350 a number of times now, and yeah, it's up there with the Dreamliner, I will say.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next story, he says, as he tries and pulls the notes back down. There we go, I found it. Matt, you've got the next story, and it seems like, is it me or do we keep giving Matt all the stories about strikes this week?
I know. I know. I mean, if you want me to go on strike, that's fine, by the way. I'm just saying.
Where do you live? The UK? Oh, yeah, you do live in the UK.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. Yeah. So we mentioned it earlier about French air traffic control. We are not immune. Let's be fair. UKAviation.news is the source for this one. And the headline is Heathrow strikes could affect up to 43, yes, you heard me right, 43,000 flights. Security staff at London Heathrow Airport are set to go on strike this summer as Unite demands an inflation-busting 12% pay rise for its staff, despite inflation falling below 10%. The strikes have been timed to cause maximum disruption to holidaymakers during the summer holidays, with August alone set to see up to 10,000 flights affected, according to data from Aviation Analytics from firm Serum. 42,600 flights are scheduled to depart from London Heathrow between the 24th of June and the 27th of August, with 20,162 of those set to depart on actual strike days, which total 21. Heathrow Airport says it already has contingency plans, with their spokesperson adding, Unite has already tried and failed to disrupt the airport with unnecessary strikes on some of our busiest days, and we continue to build our plans to protect journeys during any future strike action. The simple fact remains that the majority of colleagues do not support Unite strikes. There is a 2-year inflation-beating pay rise ready for colleagues if only Unite would allow them to have a say. Unite represents some staff in Terminals 3 and 5, and its members are the only ones to have rejected a 10.1% pay offer, which other staff have accepted. Heathrow says it will continue to talk to Unite. So there we go. Don't really have a bun in the fight on this one, if I'm honest with you. I fully appreciate how frustrating it will be. I understand why they're choosing this particular time to do strikes. I do feel it is frustrating that some people have accepted it and some haven't. But I guess that's the nature of the beast. I just hope, bearing in mind, as we were saying earlier, wasn't it, Carlos, how much it costs for families to get together and go on holiday. I just hope that, if you like, innocent parties aren't inconvenienced too much, because that's the only bit that I'm worried about. I mean, like, people like Oscar, let's use Oscar as an example. They're, very much looking forward to their holiday to Mallorca. They will have been excited about it for at least a year, all excited about doing that, looking forward to sitting in the cockpit when they get the other end, chatting to the pilots and all that kind of thing, and all that could well be taken away from them because of the strike action. On the other hand, everybody deserves fair pay. So it is a tricky one. I fully understand, and I guess we'll just have to see what happens when the strike action gets underway.
Don't want to be too controversial, but I would have thought that a 10.1% pay rise is reasonable.
Seems fair, doesn't it?
And they should be careful what they wish for, because the last time this happened, the last two times it happened, the military took over and they did a sterling job.
It was very efficient, wasn't it? Yes.
In T5. And so that's just food for thought.
Yes. Careful what you wish for sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know what you mean. I absolutely know what you mean, Nev. And let's hope the contingency plans do work, because, as I say, my heart goes out to, everything's so expensive. Holidays, as we were saying earlier, are so expensive, and I know they're a luxury item and something we can do without. But I'm thinking of the families who have been looking forward to this for a year or more, and I would be heartbroken on their behalf. I think if these amazing.
I'll tell you what has gone up in price as well, Matt.
Yeah,
holiday insurance.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I've noticed in the last couple of years that holiday insurance has gone up. I mean, I've just renewed our global insurance for another year for both me and Gemma and that. And
I must get some sorted for the States, actually. So I'd be welcome to suggestions.
I spent hours on the internet getting a decent but not £50 billion cover.
Yeah,
so.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'll send you.
Thank you. Yes, eternally grateful. Yes. Anyway, enough about our personal admin on the show.
Anyway, Nev, you've got the last story in the commercial news this week, and it's kind of commercial news, but in a GA fashion.
Well, yeah. I mean, imagine living in a tiny studio apartment. You barely have enough room to lie down, let alone do anything normal people might want to do in their homes. Now, imagine that you're sharing this space with someone else. And that's not an apartment. Instead, it's actually a single-engine small aircraft that won't touch the ground for more than 2 months.
I'm sorry, what?
I think we need to read on to find out the real story. Yeah? Because that's more or less the hell that Robert, Tim and John Cook decided to put themselves through when they set the world record for the longest continuous flight by living in a Cessna 172 as it flew over Las Vegas for 64 days, 22 hours and 19 minutes in 1959. The stunt was done as a promotion for the then new Hacienda Hotel and Casino, which Tim, who's an ex-World War II fighter pilot turned slot machine repairman, suggested to hotel management. The Hacienda gave him $100,000 US, which is over $1 million in today's money, to put the stunt together under the guise of being a cancer research fundraiser. Part of that money went towards purchasing a then relatively new Cessna 172, in a single-engine propeller airplane, which has, in the decades since its introduction, made a name for itself as being more or less the Volvo 240 of the sky, stable and reliable. To make the plane a bit more suited to purpose, Tim modified the Cessna, typically a 4-seat aircraft, by adding a mattress, a small sink and a very basic autopilot system. He also removed many of the plane's interior fittings to save some weight, and they also painted the Hacienda Hotel's logo on the side of the plane for obvious reasons. So now he had the machine, which was part billboard, part transportation and part prison cell, and he was just about to be ready to take to the skies. The last huge remaining issue from a technological point of view was fuel. Being in the late 50s, mid-air refueling wasn't really a thing, and it was definitely not something he could rig up for the Cessna, even if it were. But unlike big planes and fighters, the Cessna had a trick up its sleeve. It was really, really slow. So with everything more or less figured out, he set about attempting the record, but his first 3 attempts were foiled by mechanical trouble. His 4th attempt with co-pilot airplane mechanic John Cook began on December the 4th, 1958, when they took off from Vegas's McCarran Airport. And during the attempt, food was passed up to the plane from the Hacienda kitchens during fueling. but it had all been a bit mashed up and shoved into thermos bottles to make it easier to get into the plane. Bathroom duties, this is the bit I was concerned about here, were dealt with via a camp toilet. And the plastic bags filled with material were flung haphazardly into the Mojave. Bathing only sort of happened, thanks to a quart of bath water sent up every other day, which leads us to believe that the inside of the plane got pretty ripe. Noise and vibration from the single engine made sleeping pretty tough as well. But by the time the duo decided to pull the plug on their flight, the little Cessna had undergone a bunch of mechanical failures. These included the autopilot, the pump for transferring fuel, the landing lights, the fuel gauge and the cabin heater, which ensured that everything was both dangerous and miserable. Well, when Tim and Cook finally landed, they had to be pulled out of the plane as they were unable to walk, thanks to being unable to stand or move normally for over 2 months.
What?
It's unclear whether they were there were other lasting physiological effects from the flight, but by the end of the 64 days, 22 hours and 19 minutes, the duo had travelled around 150,000 miles. Whilst their record was very nearly beaten by a solar-powered drone in 2022, it's incredibly unlikely that no flight crewed by human beings will ever top what Robert, Tim and John Cook achieved. And frankly, who would want to?
Jeez.
Wow.
That is incredible, honestly.
I literally have no words. I'm sort of like quite frightened by that, to be honest with you. It just sounds horrendous.
Well, I think we need to look into the chat room to see what their opinions are.
Okay.
I mean, what's the longest flight now, Nev? 20 hours, isn't it? I think.
Well, at the moment I think it's sort of London to Perth, and then I think next year or the year after it'll be Melbourne, Sydney and Melbourne.
So Mazouz is saying that sounds like a typical Ryanair flight. I think that's a bit harsh. But yeah, it's not the future there, I think. Any more there, Nev? Is there...
Let's have a look. I didn't actually look properly.
It's just like, honestly...
Yeah, Mark comes up with some reasonable points. In the days when pilots were bold and mad.
Well, quite, yes, absolutely. Mad as a box of frogs, I think is the word we're looking for there.
And then Bill says, and people complain about being kept in the plane for a few hours.
True. Well, I mean, I hope they raised lots of money. That's the thing, isn't it? I hope they made lots of money for the charities that they were allegedly doing it for. Although you're never quite sure in those days, are you?
Oh,
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Never mind. Good fun.
I don't think. Yeah. As much as I love flying, I think 2 months in a 172.
Yeah, indeed.
I like my creature comforts. Anyway, moving on to the next part of the show, and we've obviously been playing out the segments all from the wonderful museum that me and Nev ventured to not so long back. And Nev, what's the next video in the segment for this week?
Yes, of course, we were up at the Museum of Flight in East Fortune, just outside of Edinburgh. Some great content to come. Still got to play out the interview that we did with Ian, who's the curator up there. But just taking around some of the aircraft in the hangars there. And we went up to take a look at the Avro Anson, which is a British twin design multi-role aircraft built by the aircraft manufacturer Avro and first flew in 1935. So let's go up to the Museum of Flight to join us up there.
Standing here next to probably one of the more well-known aircraft of the Second World War, the Avro Anson. It's a name, I mean, I've heard the name mentioned quite a few times in stories and books that I've read, Nev, in regards to the war. Now this Anson, the airliner or the aircraft itself, entered service as an airliner back in 1935. It was used by the Royal Air Force at the start of the Second World War for anti-submarine patrols. Ansons were widely used as training or transport aircraft for most of the war and several years after, and many were eventually sold on to civilian companies. This particular Anson we've got here was operated by the Royal Air Force units for 10 years. In civil ownership, it was used for photographic survey work in England and Northern Ireland. And some of the fabric covering of the aircraft we've got here behind us has been removed, so you can see the structure beneath and what goes on, behind the fabric of the aircraft. Built 1947. This is a Mark C-19 or C-19. Crew of 2 pilots would sit in this, with passengers, up to 6 passengers on here, which is quite surprising there, considering how large the aircraft is. Yeah. Had a top speed of 190 miles per hour, or 306 kilometres per hour, and a range, Nev, which I thought was quite short for this. I thought.
Yes,
range.
610 miles, which when you're doing a photographic survey isn't a lot, is it? You can burn through 600 miles very quickly, I would have thought.
Yeah, and we know someone, a friend of the show, don't we, who used to do survey work, who were flying round and round. Yeah. And 610 miles, not the biggest range really, but again, really well preserved aircraft, and it looks quite strange, Nev, actually. If you look at the back here with the fabric removed, you can see all the ribs of the aircraft and the internals of the aircraft itself. But a popular aircraft, I will say. There's a few of these dotted around the UK in various museums, but this particular one here at the National Museum of Flight, I say, very well preserved. Excellent to see these up close and personal. What do you think, Nev?
Great, isn't it? And I love coming to museums like this because my knowledge of these kind of aircraft is not very extensive. And so I'm always educated either by you or by the cheat sheet we've got in front of us or one of the volunteers. So it's fascinating, and you always learn so much by just coming around these museums. And I can't thank the museum enough for their hospitality and all the things they've done for us so far today.
Very true. Yeah. Still loads more to see and do. So back to you in the studio. Well, Nev, another enjoyable little piece there. And what a fantastic aircraft, actually, to be...
It's so well presented, isn't it? Everything that they've got in that museum is beautifully presented, the ones that are in the hangars. And we'll be playing out some more over the coming weeks. And then we'll be featuring, as I say, Ian, who's the curator of the museum. Had a great chat with him, really interesting about how they go about looking after these aircraft. So, superb once again.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a visit. As we said, if you've not been there before, it is... it is a fantastic day out. I think 2 day out. I think they have to try and get everything in, to be fair. Yeah. Coming up next, we have got another video segment. This one's been sent in to especially from Armando. You may know he's been doing all things Reno, and he's been very busy indeed. And this particular video he's done a little interview with Neil Parkinson at the Reno Air Races. And Neil is, believe it or not, a Spitfire pilot. So, Matt, roll the video.
All right, guys, so I'm here with Neil Parkinson. Before we get into what he actually does for a day job, let's talk about being here at the Reno Air Races. First of all, you just did your first couple laps around the course at the Reno Air Race. How did that feel?
It is amazing. I mean, it's a schoolboy dream and an ambition, and to be offered the chance to race in its final year is a dream come true.
A schoolboy dream.
Yeah.
So how long have you known about Reno?
Well, I read Pilot magazine when I was 10, and there was articles on air racing, and you watch the Bearcats and the stuff in the 80s doing it, and I was actually giggling earlier on as I turned around a pylon, because it's not just a pylon, it's a pylon that says Reno on the side of it, which is incredible, isn't it?
So how did you end up here? You're a long way from home.
Yes. So I was doing an air show in Portugal, and I bumped into Rick Van Dam and a few of the air racing guys, and I literally said I would love to come to Reno, even if it's sweeping the hangar or wiping oil, and they said we can do better than that, and luckily enough, I got an aeroplane to use. So
you were doing an air show in Portugal. I assume that was with the Spitfire?
Yes. Yeah, so we my number 2 job is lucky enough flying Spitfires in the UK, and we have 4 of them. I don't own them, I'm just the pilot, and I was lucky enough to get given the job to ferry a Spitfire Mark 9 from England down to Portugal. Took 2 days, 5 stops to get down there. I was there for 4 or 5 days doing 2 air shows, met all the guys, talked about Reno over a beer, and then had to fly the Spitfire back to England. And the Spitfire's not designed for long flights.
Well, so for me as an American living over in the UK, I specifically remember, aside from the air shows, sitting in my back garden in Bury St Edmunds, and occasionally on a weekend, unexpected to me as an American, I don't, not too familiar with the holidays, I would just sit back there with a cup of tea and a newspaper, almost English, and then you would hear the sound.
Yes.
You would hear the sound of a Spitfire coming over, and they would come right over the town center of Bury St Edmunds and do a couple rolls, and I always thought, how does somebody in our age get into flying a Spitfires? And I'm lucky enough to have heard the story already, but how did you get into flying Spitfires?
Well, lots of people ask me that. They say, is a Spitfire difficult to fly? And you say it's very easy compared to convincing someone you should be able to fly it. and flying it is perfectly reasonable and it's achievable, but convincing someone to let you fly a Spitfire is nearly impossible. So I'm very lucky that my childhood passion for Spitfires came true. I knew what I needed to do, and I'd been flying for a living for 30 years now, but at the time 22, 23, and I knew what I needed to get to, lots of tail wheel time, aerobatics, air shows, and just being in the right place and being seen on the people who made the decisions radar. And I was lucky about 7 years ago to get the dream phone call saying, come and have a go, see if you can crack it.
What did you do to build that experience, that tail wheel time and air shows? What did you do to land the job?
Well, I built a pit special when I was a kid, and had that, and that's my baby. I've still got it, and I got a display authorization to fly that, and did church fete air shows to begin with, and village shows and that sort of stuff, and then bigger air shows. And in the UK you have a thing called a display authorization, which is a amendment to your license saying you can do that. So you start off high and you can gradually bring it down. I did 5 years of wing walking steermans, the steermans with the girls on the top. Wow. So which is again useful, and quite a bit of Harvard time. So I sort of tick the boxes on someone that should be able to do it, and then they put you in the front and see if you can do it. So.
Yeah. So as far as the Spitfire goes, if somebody wanted more information on that, what's the name of the company and how can it? Do you guys? I assume you guys do rides.
Yes.
And, right?
Yeah. So the company's called Spitfires with an S. Spitfires.com. And our primary business is selling rides in 2-seat Spitfires. So look on the website. You can start off at half an hour, and you can have as long as your bank account allows you to have.
Okay, well that's a dangerous way to sell that. I want to bring it back to Reno here real quick. So as we know, this is the last Reno Air Races. I guess from a ground personnel standpoint, I'm loving seeing new faces, new experience, especially on this last year. What does this mean to you? What does it mean to you to be here? And by all accounts, he's doing pretty well in Pylon Racing School, and to be able to race in the last Reno Air Race as your first one.
Well, it's just a privilege, really. It is such a privilege that people have trusted me to fly their aeroplane around the course, and to fly around the course, and I've just been watching the playback of the cockpit video, and it seemed very quick, and you watch the video and it is quick. It's an incredible feeling, and it's hallowed turf out there. It's the history out there is immense.
What's been your favorite part of this whole week?
I think overtaking people on the finish line.
That's the crowd pleaser, right? Yeah. Like that's why people come here, because you can barely see. I mean, you can see the backside of the course from the stands, but really that's what everybody comes here for, is that last photo finish on the home stretch. Yeah. What goes through your mind? So you were out there today. You've been in school for a week.
I mean, it's the second time I've done it, so I'd be lying to say I had much spare capacity to think about things, but it's an incredible experience. The flying is amazing, and you're down at 50, 60 feet doing 250 mile an hour. It's incredible. It's I can't explain it, but I'm still on the high. I haven't come down yet.
That's why I wanted to do the interview right now.
Yeah.
So, did you even have the chance today to look at your engine parameters? Look at, I know even just finding the pylons, because to be clear, the pylons is just a 50-foot telephone pole with a 50-gallon drum painted red or white. So they're not exactly easy to find in the desert, right?
And that was the battle. I was at the front of the pack earlier on, and you've got to find the pylons. Obviously, the fortunate place of being slightly back is you can follow other people. But I was at the front, and again, you're trying to find them. And someone new like me, I'm still learning the course.
And did your particular flight switch courses? Did you start on one course? And
you start off on the big course, and then you come into the closer course.
Yeah.
But the pylons change colour. You just got to remember as you're turning around the corner to go, right, I'm now going to this one.
Yeah.
But I'm still learning the racing line, and another 2 trips tomorrow.
Yeah. What do you want to get out of this week?
A pass.
Yeah. I mean, to be able to come here, and I have a feeling that no matter what happens, you're probably going to be here in September.
Great.
So going back to your day job, here you are, right? So we've already talking about, and I know you flew helicopters. So how did you get into aviation, and then where did you end up? What is your actual job that pays for all of
So I saw Star Wars when I was about 3, and I wanted to fly spaceships. And then by about the age of 10, I realised I couldn't fly spaceships. So I got a job at my local airfield when I was 13, washing Cessnas. Every 4 days I washed Cessnas, I got a flying lesson. So by the time I was 17, which is the age limit back then to have a licence, I had about 100 hours, and I'd done all my exams, and I did my first solo on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
And then that got my private pilot's licence over there. And then a bit of house building. I was meant to go in the British military, but the Russians gave up and defence cuts. So I then got a bank loan.
That's Western civilization summed up in about 30 seconds.
And then so I got a bank loan, and I became a helicopter instructor.
Yeah.
Initially on Robinsons, then onto jet range and turbine, and I spent the last 10 years of my helicopter career doing EMS helicopters and police.
Wow.
So picking up poorly people and chasing naughty people.
Which is so unique over there. We've on the show we've talked about the differences between government-funded aeromedical here in the U.S. and over there being essentially private, and then a lot of donations to keep those operations going. But then you ended up as a corporate pilot.
Yeah, so about 15 years ago, I got lured into corporate jet flying, and Citations, the lovely Hawker, the Global Express, and for the last 6 years I've been flying a Falcon 7X out of Biggin Hill in London, which is a lovely aircraft. It's a dream come true, and I work for a particularly nice chap who's a very rich chap, and he uses me about 5 days a month, and so the rest of the time it allows me to do the Spitfire flying and to come and do this sort of thing.
Yeah. So we always ask this one question. Look at this. This is Reno. So we always ask this question. I didn't prep you for this question, and I can't believe I'm asking this first from someone who flies a Spitfire. But we always end with, if money was no object and you could fly any airplane, past, present, or future, what airplane would that be?
Well, if you'd asked me until 6 years ago, I'd have said a Spitfire, and all my childhood it had been a Spitfire, and there's posters of Spitfires, and as an Englishman it's a celebrity and an icon, as well as a really nice aircraft. I'm lucky that I've ticked that box. So if now, I don't know, I'd like to fly one of the big American radial fighters maybe, but I'm very happy with what I've got.
Yeah.
Well,
I appreciate your time.
no problem, thank you.
Yeah.
See, now this is the problem, isn't it? Because we always ask the question, what would they like to fly? And the response is almost always a Spitfire. So the opportunity to ask someone who does fly a Spitfire, it's sort of nice to hear the alternative answer, really, I suppose, because he has ticked that box, as he said at the end there. But what a wonderful interview. And I think Armando is hoping to catch up with him sort of perhaps over here in the UK. So very, very exciting. Great interview as always. It sounds like they've had just the best time out there. It just sounds amazing. Hopefully we'll get Armando on I know he's busy for the next few weeks, isn't he? But hopefully he'll be with us again soon, and we can hear all about the Reno. All about the Reno.
Is that something you wouldn't mind trying, Nev? A little flight in a Spitfire? Just out of interest?
Yes, I think I would, actually. Yes, I think I would. That would suit me very nicely. It's
there is something so iconic about it, isn't it? This is the thing, isn't it? It's a bit like Concorde for me. It's that same sort of thing. It's got that same gravitas and that roar of the Merlin engine is something that I'll never. That noise is just so unique and so beautiful.
I'll just before we move on, I will just say when me and Armando went to that flying barbecue, the first few days I was with him over at Landis Field, they had a raffle, a massive raffle. There was prizes, headsets, all stuff to do with aviation. It was huge. One of the prizes was a flight in a P-51 Mustang,
Oh, wow.
and it was actually a flight in the one used on Top Gun, the
Okay.
Maverick, which is actually owned by Tom Cruise.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I've never seen Armando move so quick to get back to the the house where they were doing the draw, just to see
Really? See who won. Yeah.
but to see who won. But yeah, it's one of those tick boxes, I think, guys. Flight in a P-51 Mustang or a flight in a Spitfire. I think it's something we'd all love to.
Now, you can keep the Mustang, Spitfire all the way for me. Even I would be willing to go up in...
What about the B-17, Matt, or the Lancaster?
Yeah, actually, do you know what? Yes, I would.
I mean, you've got the Sally B behind you.
I have, yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? Actually, because it'd be spacious for which would be refreshing, frankly. Do you know what? Yeah, because again, that's another one. I mean, I suppose for me, it's more synonymous because of obviously the very famous film that it was part of.
Memphis Belle,
yeah, the old Memphis Belle film. But yeah, actually, yeah, probably, yeah, that one, the B-17 or the Spitfire, I think for me. Yeah, you can keep your Mustang. Not interested in that.
Richard Adams is saying in the chat room, just nip down to Goodwood. You can get 30 minutes at $4,500.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. It's a little bit out of my price range. I've got to be honest.
Nev's on his way now. Well done. Nev.
Yes. Okay. I mean, it's just like, yeah. I mean, it is. It's such an iconic thing, isn't it?
It's so good.
If I had it, I would pay it. There's no two ways about it. There is no two ways.
So,
about it.
as it's nice to see Armando as well on the video, but we've got Armando back again in video form, albeit. But it's time for some military aviation news. Nev's favourite part of the show. So, Matt, hit that button.
What's up, Buggies 135, 50 Angels 16, heading 340. Okay. 100 St. Buggies.
Hey guys, our first military story is something that we've talked about on the show for a couple years now about the dependency on GPS and where do we think that's going? Should there be any kind of GPS jamming or a failure in the system even? So recently an Air Force C-17 tested a new technology that could help aviators stay on their course even if the GPS system, which most of modern day aviation relies upon, is compromised. So the successful demonstration was held last month, and it's a promising development in a time where many national security experts are worrying that GPS navigation could be disrupted by signal jamming, cyber attacks, or even an actual kinetic sort of anti-satellite weapon, somebody launching a missile or some kind of laser and taking out the GPS satellite constellation. Currently, many military and civilian aviation organizations and aircraft rely on a combination of GPS and inertial navigation. So inertial navigation systems take an aircraft's initial position, and then it uses velocity, acceleration, the laws of physics really, to determine where the aircraft is at any given point in time. The advantage of such systems is that they do not depend on external signals and they can't be jammed. The disadvantage of the system is that it actually grows less accurate over time, which can be a problem over long flights like a bomber strike flight or a cargo aircraft doing some kind of infiltration or exfiltration. Now, with the advent of GPS, many inertial navigation systems are backed up by GPS systems, and they use that to do an update every once in a while. Now, without GPS, aviators have to use other ways to update the inertial navigation system. Some of those methods actually go back centuries. One of those is a magnetic compass. But, of course, as we know, anomalies in the Earth's crust could tell aviators more than just the general direction of north. When mapped, the different levels of magnetization generated by each anomaly can actually help navigators figure out where they are. The trouble is that performing magnetic navigation in real time is very difficult, especially when modern aircraft have lights, transmitters, computers, all kinds of other devices that generate electromagnetic noise and disrupt those calculations. So one of the central challenges of magnetic navigation is that sorting a clean signal through that noise to get an accurate read of the Earth's magnetic field is actually pretty difficult. Artificial intelligence it has finally made that possible. There's a company called MagNav. It's a MagNav project. It's created in an open source magnetic navigation open challenge to build a machine learning model for removing aircraft electromagnetic noise from the total magnetic field. So these algorithms are sorting out that noise, and according to their spokesperson, it was pretty challenging to do that. Figuring out a way to run those algorithms not on a supercomputer lab, but on a laptop aboard a moving aircraft was a pretty big challenge. And that's how a lot of our technologies in the military start, is just a carry-on, carry-off capability that eventually serves as a proof of concept. And after years, it becomes, a program of record, part of the aircraft. So the MagNav team was working with MIT's Lincoln Labs, and the Air Force Research Lab Sensors Directorate, the Air Force Institute of Technology, Autonomy and Navigation Center, and a software company called Sandbox AQ to develop a quantum magnetic sensor that could be flown aboard a C-17. Now, the chance to demonstrate the system came in a previous exercise called Exercise Golden Phoenix. It's a 2-week exercise where airmen, Marine, sailors practiced moving people and cargo to locations in California and Nevada to hone those mobility operations that I was talking about earlier that might be required against a near-peer adversary in a conflict. Now, integrating all these methods could result in a diversified navigation system with no single point of failure, and that aircraft could be just the beginning. According to an Air Force press release, it noted that future MagNav experiments could take place aboard submarines, hypersonic glide vehicles, drones even, in a small form factor. This is important. This is an important advancement in technology, and we kind of figured that artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to be augmenting all aspects of military aviation and eventually commercial aviation, because that's kind of the way it flows down. But it's interesting to see that the U.S. Air Force and these civilian industry partners are actually tackling the problem of the reliance on GPS constellations to navigate. So this is an interesting one. We'll keep an eye on this. I imagine that this is probably going to be a multi-year, 4 or 5 year project, and we'll probably see something, or we may see something and then not hear about it, because that's the way that the Air Force loves to do things.
Thanks, Armando, as always, for that. And I'll tell you what, guys, one of those things, that when I, all those years ago, started to learn to fly, and I was in that little 150, and I was being taught how to use a chart and the whiz wheel and the compass and stuff to navigate cross country and stuff. And I used to think, I'll just get my phone out and put Skydemon on. It's way quicker. But obviously, you rely on things like GPS heavily, not just in cars, but as in aircraft and stuff, to find out where you are. And when you do lose something like a GPS system, you've got to revert to something else, or to something old school, such as a map. I mean, Nev, you've got GPS and sat nav in your in the old banana, and I mean, if that packed up, I'm sure you'd probably use Waze or Google Maps on your phone.
Or my sense of personal direction, which is obviously okay if you're on the road, but if you're in the air, that's a more challenging thing. But of course, yeah, you're right. It's all about doing it properly, isn't it? Raw data and manual stuff and charts.
I mean, can you remember all those years ago? I mean, Matt, you probably remember this, and you know, when you used to have one of those huge atlases in your car, the road atlas of the UK.
I have the worst sense of direction in my entire life. If my sat nav doesn't work, I'm screwed. It's why I'm a rubbish coach driver.
And that is why we love Waze. But obviously, it does rely, you know, on a lot of things. And if you lose
data and signal, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But no, thanks for that, Armando, as always. And moving on to the next story in the military news this week. And this one is coming to us from Armando again. It's all about the E6B Mercury aircraft.
Now, continuing on with a little bit of technology updates. This next story is from BreakingDefense.com. The U.S. Navy has accepted its first upgraded E-6B Mercury. Now, that aircraft is responsible for maintaining the lines of communication between the president and the nuclear submarine fleet during times of crisis. This is part of an ongoing $111 million contract with Northrop Grumman. The Naval Air Systems Command, which is the Navy's primary agency for procuring aircraft, said in a statement this week that the work was done throughout the past year and the plane was finally accepted just this month. Now, this deal was dubbed the Integrated Maintenance and Modification Contract. It was awarded in February 2022 to upgrade the E-6B fleet, which, as you guys might know, is actually a derivative of the Boeing 707 at the Northrop's facilities in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Under this contract, this company is going to overhaul multiple E-6B Mercuries between now and 2027. The total number of E-6Bs that will upgrade it, according to the Navy, is going to be 12. The plane itself is equipped with unique equipment that allows its operators to communicate with the Navy's submarine fleet even while the boats are submerged. That equipment could be used to deliver orders from the president in the event that submarines are called up to fire one of their nuclear weapons. The E-6B fleet is flown out of Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. They're flown by the Navy Fleet Air Reconnaissance Squadrons 3 and 4, which are part of Strategic Communications Wing 1, according to the U.S. Navy. Now, this is very important. As you guys know, there's a nuclear triad, right? So the missiles, the bombers, and the submarines, and this is an important way to ensure continuity of operations should there be just a massive loss of command and control capability. You have these aircraft that are able to essentially carry out autonomous orders or decentralized. We'll go with decentralized command and control. So very important update here.
I mean, I guess one should always be prepared. That is what we learned from that.
Can you believe it? Right, the E-6B Mercury, right? Nev is based on the 707-300, the actual E6 platform.
Yes, Armando said that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like the 707 is
quite an old aircraft. I mean, it's so old.
Aircraft.
It's so old that even Captain Jeff used to fly it.
But I tell you what, it's done blooming well with Boeing. And you look at Boeing, obviously with the 707. This is with the E6 is based on. But Boeing have built some really good airliners that have been so well utilized by the air the forces, the air forces, and they just seem to go on and on and on, such as this one. Based on obviously it's had a few upgrades with engines and stuff, but no, fantastic to see these still in the air, I think.
Indeed.
Next story is from Armando again, and this one is all about a little incident that happened with an Osprey and some skydiving aircraft. So Matt, roll the video.
Now, it wouldn't be an Armando military segment if we didn't throw an Osprey story in there. This is from military.com. This is 3 years after a civilian skydiving aircraft collided with an MV-22 Osprey sitting on a San Diego runway. The U.S. government is suing several businesses, including the airport, the city, the pilot, for other damages. And we did actually talk about this story on the show. I'm sure John is going to figure out what episode that was on, but it was 3 years ago. So The civil lawsuit was filed by the U.S. government late last month in the U.S. District Court of Southern California. They're seeking upward of $5.7 million in damages for the Class A mishap. That's the term that the military uses for a serious incident or most expensive or even a deadly crash. Now, this occurred May 30th of 2020 at Brownfield Municipal Airport in San Diego, California. Now, the lawsuit was filed on behalf of the Department of the Navy, and it names the civilian pilot, Christopher Sanders. TAC Air Ops LLC, which is a veteran-owned business that helps train the military, Caposin Air Sports Limited, which is a skydive company, and the City of San Diego, Brownfield Municipal Airport, and 25 other individuals who are unnamed in the lawsuit. Between May 29th, 2020 and May 31st, 2020, the Marine Corps Marine Medium Tilt Rotor Squadron 163 ordered 2 MV-22 aircraft to fly from Miramar Air Station to Brownfield. It's about 30 miles away. They were conducting routine training flights, according to the lawsuit. On May 29th, 2020, one of the Osprey aircraft on the call sign Evil Eye 11 landed at the airport just before midnight and began heading to its usual parking spot, but had to relocate to another area. Now, according to the lawsuit, it says upon arrival at the routine parking location, the crew of the MV-22 discovered that the airport failed to maintain adequate parking at its routine parking location. Now, the crew was forced to locate to an alternate area to park the aircraft. They had to park the spot in a spot next to several other aircraft, including de Havilland DHC-6 Twin Otter aircraft. That aircraft was owned by the company Skydive San Diego, which is doing business as TAC Air Ops, according to the U.S. government. The next morning, on May 30th, Sanders, who was the pilot of the Twin Otter, entered the plane, powered the right engine to 100%, left engine to 50%, and then the plane collided with the Osprey. After traveling more than 80 feet, turning 95 degrees to the left, the Twin Otter impacted the MV-22. The damage to the MV-22 included to, but was not limited to, the left prop rotor, the left engine nacelle, the nose wheel, the wing, and the right prop rotor blade of the MV-22. So pretty significant damage. Meanwhile, the City of San Diego and Brownfield Municipal Airport are being called out for the parking situation in the government's lawsuit also. This is an interesting one. I don't know that the government has started or initiated lawsuits against civilian entities or other government agencies very often. But I think for the U.S. Navy to determine that there was either liability or negligence on behalf of the airport and its operators and its tenants, to take caution in not, ensuring proper clearance. Now, I'll remind you guys, there is nothing really secret about the MV-22 or the CV-22. They're pretty open aircraft, so it's not like you need to park this aircraft away from the public. You don't need to park it. You don't need a cordon off of it. You don't need a security to be there at night. They're really pretty utilitarian aircraft, so it is perfectly okay to take an Osprey, even though it's big, right? It's 84 feet from tip to tip, but it's perfectly okay to park it somewhere in the general public parking, which both the Navy and the Air Force know that. The problem here was what I think they're kind of assuming is negligence on behalf of the tenant, the airport tenants, and the airport for not having adequate parking for their Navy exercise.
I mean, if you need somebody to talk about an Osprey with authority, of course, then Armando is definitely your man. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah. But
I don't know if I want to park one.
No. You're talking, this sort of story is obviously all about this a collision between an Osprey and a skydiving aircraft. And, when you look in the UK where we are here, we've got obviously the flight school where just across from where me and you are, Matt, here. It's all open areas, but we do have a lot of training aircraft going through here. We've got Hercules, we've got A400Ms, we've got Apaches, we've got all the local training school aircraft coming over from Watersham and stuff. There's a lot of aircraft that fly in and around the area, and we've got the parachute aircraft at Beccles, as you know, flies over here and over us regularly, and you've got all that activity in the airspace. So it is, over in the US, it's a bigger country. They've got more airspace than us, but as you can see, sadly, obviously, this incident happened. So,
Indeed.
But moving on to the next story from
the final story, in
Armando.
fact.
The final story in the military this week from Armando. And this week, the last story is all about the US Army's elite 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment.
Well, if we're getting to this fourth military story, that means we had some extra time on the show. I'm kind of continuing on with the helicopter theme. This is a story that just came out a couple weeks ago about the Army's Night Stalkers, the Black Hawks, and the Little Birds, and the 160th SOAR. The Army's 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment is one of the best units in the world. Arguably, I think, in my opinion, they are some of the most talented aviators in the world, absolutely. And I've had the pleasure of working with them in the past. But they're expecting to replace more than 50% of its MH-60 Black Hawk and MH-6 Little Bird fleets starting early 2030s. Now, special operations specific variants of this new Bell tilt rotor aircraft that the Army is acquiring and of the services still to be decided, Advanced Armed Scout Helicopter, are set to replace significant numbers of these MH-60s and MH-6s respectively. At least some versions of the Little Bird could possibly be replaced with a advanced hybrid electric derivative. And the Black Hawks are still expected to remain in service because it's it's a proven aircraft due to its capabilities that they offer the general U.S. Special Operations Forces. Jeff Downer, the head of U.S. Special Operations Command's Program Executive Office, or PEO, for Rotary Wing Operations, provided details on the future of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiments, or the SOAR, helicopter fleets for the War Zone and the Drive.com, and some others at a briefing at the annual conference known as SOF Week, which takes place in Tampa, Florida. In addition to Black Hawks and Little Birds, the 160th, known as the Night Stalkers, also operates MH-47 Chinook helicopters. It's also worth noting that the Night Stalkers Little Birds can be configured for a light attack role, where they are referred to as AH-6s, or configured as light transports, where they are designated as MH-6s. Now, the MH-60s are primarily transports, but can also be configured as more heavily armed gunships known as direct action penetrators, or DAPs. Now, in December 2022, we talked about it on the show, Army picked a derivative of Bell's V-280 Valor tilt-rotor aircraft as the winner of its Future Long-Range Assault Aircraft, or FLRAA. FLRAA, I think we're calling it. I don't know. A protest against that contract was initiated by a member of the losing team from Sikorsky. That was actually rejected just a few weeks ago in April. Now, the FLRAA aircraft will replace at least a significant portion of the Army's non-special operations Black Hawk fleet. The 160th expects to receive that FLRAA aircraft from the Army, and they're currently doing studies to look at the modifications needed to make it into a special operations configuration, or a SOF configuration. The FARA, F-A-R-A, is going to be very important to SOCOM because it may be the replacement for the Little Bird. The Little Bird currently only flies 90 knots, so it gives them this kind of a little bit extra critical speed that they need. Now, the 160th is transitioning away, at least in part, from MH-60s and AH-MH-6s. This is going to give the unit a significantly different look. As Downer said in this statement with regard to the Little Bird replacement plan specifically, this will give the Army Special Operations aviators a significant boost in speed. The V-280 FLRAA will offer a major increase in range as well as compared to the Black Hawk. And as the War Zone has noted in the past, the range and speed are said to be critical factors for U.S. military aviation elements broadly in a future major conflict, because being able to cross long distances quickly could be especially important in a conflict, let's say in the Pacific region. That theater, as well as Africa, is especially challenging for traditional rotary wing assets that lack the range and fly at a comparatively low speed. If you didn't get anything from the last 4 minutes that I've been talking, go to YouTube and do a search for the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and you'll see some amazing aviators. There's some great public videos, especially with their little birds. Those guys are so good at what they do, and they are just so critical for the special operations roles that we use them in as the U.S. government. So go check that out on YouTube, and let's see how they end up modifying the V-280 tilt rotor aircraft. I think it's going to be a pretty cool looking aircraft, whatever it looks like in the end.
I mean, it's going to be a pretty cool looking aircraft, but I haven't got a chuffing clue, frankly.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're on about replacing. They're on about replacing these MH60s. Obviously, replacing them, the Black Hawks with some new, obviously new helicopters. And can I just say, if anyone's listening from the US Army's Elite 160
here we go.
Special Operations Force, send me one of those old Black Hawks over here, because I can honestly say that would make an amazing shed at the bottom of the garden, and one that would never rot. Well, technically not rot, not like a wooden
Yeah, I mean,
shed.
you can build it up however you like, Carlos. You've still got to get it past the wife. That's the issue.
Have you not seen that guy down south who he got a Sea King?
Yeah.
Air Sea Rescue helicopter, a Sea King Air Sea Rescue helicopter. Obviously took the blades off because they were too big.
Right, okay.
But he kept the main body, the main helicopter fuselage. He's turned it into an Airbnb.
Wonderful.
He's making a fortune.
I'm sure he is, absolutely. Is he married?
He is married.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay, all right, okay, yeah,
Yes.
fair enough.
His wife tolerates it.
Right, okay, well, probably because of the
as would
spending money.
mine.
Yeah. Would she? Well, I suppose if there was money involved, I suppose she might be quite interested. Yeah, bless her. Yeah.
So if you're watching, send one over.
Right. Okay. Good luck with that.
As long as it's paid, the crane is paid for. That's fine.
Yeah. Excellent. Anyway, moving on.
So thanks for that, Armando, for sending us the military news for this week, and thanks for putting all the videos together for us. Very good. You've made Nev's day. Anyway. So, as we have mentioned the word Nev, you have got the next part of the show, because it is all about our big book giveaway.
Yes. This is my second favourite part of the show, actually, apart from the caption this, because I like seeing people win. No, this is great. So we are giving away the Halton Boys book by Sean Feast. The question from last week was, RAF Halton is the nearest military station to where I live, here in Buckinghamshire. What year was the airbase established? The answer is 1913. I didn't even know that, so I had to look that up myself. However, we do have a lot of correct answers, and I have the PTUK bag here, and we've got all the right answers in here, and I shall draw out the winner. Let's have a look. Oh, look at this. I don't even know he's one of these people just got one name, like Lulu, but his name is Sturman.
Ah,
Yes.
I love it.
How about that?
Oh, bless him. He'll be so chuffed.
Carlos, have you got Sturman's address in your database somewhere?
Yeah.
If you could WhatsApp that to me, and I shall send this off to you tomorrow from the Aylesbury Post Office, Sturman, first class, and you'll get it on Monday.
Lovely.
So that will be great. Now, for this week's competition, we have a very special prize. I actually went out and bought this book. It is Concorde.
Oh, hello.
Which is the awe-inspiring true story of the world's greatest airplane from inside the cockpit by Mike Bannister, Chief Concorde pilot. Mike's been involved with the aircraft for many, many years. I'm going to have to get a bigger packet to send it in, because it's 450 pages. It's a huge
and hardback, no less.
And I thought I would get the hardback version as well.
Bit of quality there. Looks like a great book.
Yeah, it is. Now, lots of questions about Concorde, of course, lots of stats and what have you. But I thought I would ask, a slightly more tricky or maybe an unusual question this week. Now, obviously, many people know that the aircraft could carry up to 100 passengers, but what was the maximum weight of cargo that she could carry?
Oh, that's an
What was
interesting
the maximum weight of cargo that the aircraft could carry? We'll accept your answer in kilograms or tons.
Oh, will we now?
Metric
Right.
tons. None of the imperial business, if you don't
No,
mind.
okay, right.
So the prize is the copy of Concorde by Chief Concorde pilot Mike Bannister. It's a great read. I've actually downloaded the audiobook version of it, and it's just a brilliant way he tells it. But also, there's some lovely illustrations in the book as well. So we should be sending it out next week as a prize. So if you would like to send your entries into podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Don't put it in the chat room because it won't count. Podcast@planetalkinguk.com, and we'll draw out a winner from next week's selection. So thank you very much indeed for participating, and good luck.
So, interestingly enough, Mark Priestley is saying, not a lot, methinks, is his answer to that. John Falk saying it's got great reviews, the book, by the way. So
yes, it has. Yeah, and to say I'm about 3/4 of the way through the audio version of it, and Mike does a tremendous story of telling the tales. And I learnt a lot. I thought I knew quite a lot about the aircraft, having sort of followed it for so many years. But there's quite a few tidbits of information that I didn't know about it actually. So that was quite fascinating. But yes, podcast@planetalkinguk.com with your answers, please.
So, thanks for that, Nev, and well done to Sturman for winning the book. I'm sure he's actually just messaged me on WhatsApp. He's rather excited. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, well done to that, and look forward to seeing who wins next week's book. And I shall, hopefully, if I remember, I'll get those details put on our social media page as well for those of you who follow us on Facebook, so you can see the question and the book as well. So Nev, if you can ping those over to me at some point, I'll get those on the old Book of Face. Right, next up, it's that time of the week. It's Caption This Just for Fun. It's safe to say this week's picture did get some attention on the old Facebook. And I think Matt, could you explain to me in your best idea of what this picture for our audio listeners is all about?
So for those of you who are, I'm not quite sure of the location, I have to be honest, but it is an airport somewhere. I'm assuming somewhere in the States, because all I can see is the tail fins of multiple Delta aircraft that are having an extended wash, shall we say. They are, in fact, some of them are almost complete. There's one or two that are almost completely submerged, and you can see all the the air bridges and all that kind of thing, sort of underwater. But yeah, basically, what we got: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Delta aircraft that are all underwater, presumably as a result of some significant flooding. So, if you guys want to take what we've had in already, and if you've got any suggestions for the picture that we've got in the chat room here, I'll deal with that once we've got through. So, Carlos and Nev, if you want to take care of that.
So, Nick kicks us off with, "Out you get, kids. I told you not to swim straight after a meal."
Jenny says, "Young jets are having a swimming lesson today." I like that. Well done.
Matt, do you want to take the next one, or do you want me to... No? Nicholas says Delta's new float plane experiment didn't proceed as planned.
Carlos, can you do the next one?
Oh, I'll do this one.
I think you'll do a better job of it than I.
This one is, Tim says, "Baby shark doo 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 doo."
Oh dear.
I'm really glad I didn't attempt that.
No, me too. Me too.
Dari says, "Pilot to first officer, hang up the sign, gone fishing."
I'd love to see that hanging from a window of an aircraft, actually, yeah. Bill says, "Meanwhile, back at the airport, things are going swimmingly."
Dirk says, "In an effort to improve services for their airline customers, US airports have introduced the Grobwen Kawako system, which is ground-based brake, engine and cabin water cooling system for faster cooling and hence turnaround times. As you know, in aviation, they love an acronym, don't they? So,
Christopher has come up with an old classic here, an old 80s, 70s or 80s classic, I think, when the first one was released. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. We'll leave that one there.
I'm glad you did that one as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Ian says, so this is what the sharklets look like. That's one of my favourite ones.
I like that one. That one's good.
Yeah.
Paul is obviously a big fan of a very good friend of the show, Captain Al, because he says someone banned Captain Al from using the first class lounge as toilets. He's only gone and blocked them again.
Oh no.
Oh dear. John says passengers are in floods of tears for Captain Jeff's final flight with Atkin.
Oh no, that is going to be quite brutal. That's going to be quite brutal. That one, yeah, absolutely.
Dear. Totally, yeah. Brilliant.
What we got from the chat room then, Matt?
Indeed, yes, just bear with me. I'm just queuing them all up. So thank you for all. Loads of them have come in, I'm pleased to say. We'll start with John. He has said sharks. Or what sharks? Uncle Micah has just joined us as well, by the way. He's saying, hello, boys and girls, from Route 95 in Alexandria, Virginia. Love Delta's new submarine service, is what it's suggesting. Richard is saying in the chat room here, my geography teacher lied. He said that river deltas, he said that river deltas were by the sea. Sorry, I don't know why that tickles me quite so much. Not sure how I feel about this. What is it? Captain Sully's new fan club arrives.
Oh, dear. Bad taste. That's terrible. But very funny as well.
Sorry. Richard is saying a new US Special Forces unit raised after a merger of Delta Force and SEALs. John's got another offer. He said, who pulled out the bath plug? And then finally, Mark Priestley is saying, not as good as the pilot who landed on the Hudson, of course. But there you go. Oh dear, on good form as always. I mean, it's I don't know how you would solve that one. I mean, it's not just as simple as drying them out, is it? I mean, there'll be a lot of ruined electrics, I think, as a result of that. But there we go. Never mind, all part of the fun, as they say. Yeah.
So don't forget, if you want to be part of the caption this just for fun crew, team even, get yourselves over to our social media on Facebook and give us a like while you're there as well. And every Wednesday, roughly, we post a picture on there for you to comment on and leave your wittiest and funniest comments on. So keep your eyes open on our social medias. And talking about social medias, Nev, for those who may not have searched for us on there or purchased one of our glorious t-shirts and mugs, where can people find us?
Yes, of course, on the socials, it's Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search those for Plain Talking UK. Our WhatsApp number is +44 757 2249 That's +44 757 2249 You can email the show, as we mentioned earlier, podcast@plaintalkinguk.com, and the website is all the W's, plaintalkinguk.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Just go to youtube.com and search for Plain Talking UK. And there's also our Amazon link, where you can, by clicking on that link, you can do your shopping via Amazon through our website, and we get paid a small referral fee for doing that. You can also become a patron of the show. Go to www.plaintalkinguk.com, and it tells you all about it on there. And we're very grateful to all of our Patreon and PayPal contributors as well.
So, obviously, before we wrap up, we have got a big day coming up on Sunday. Me and Nev and the newest member of our team, Nick Codling, we're all going off to the Cosford, the Royal Air Force Cosford Air Show this year. We're going to be there Sunday. We're going to get there nice and early in the morning Sunday, and we are going to be doing some interviews, some filming, some pictures and all kinds of stuff there. So if you are going to be in the area or going to the air show on Sunday, because I know it has sold out. It has very much sold out this week, the air show. So you can't buy your tickets on the gate. They have to be pre-purchased. So if you've not got your ticket already, unfortunately, you might well miss out. But we're going to be there. So if you fancy coming and see us, give us a look. We'll be wearing our normal PTUK stuff, won't we, Nev?
Yes. Let's hope I can still fit into it. But no, actually, Carlos very generously bought me a extra size this year due to operational difficulties.
Yes, absolutely. Challenges. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And obviously, you'll get a chance as well to meet Nick, obviously the newest member of our production team, who's been working this week as well, putting some bits and pieces together for us for the show. So he's been helping out, doing what he does well, and also not forgetting as well John as well. He is also been he's been a busy old beaver, hasn't he, old John, with work. He's been flying.
Oh yes,
flying and flying and flying,
and more.
And more so. So that is where we are going to bring episode number 459 to a close. Don't forget to join us next Friday.
There you go, Carlos. Look, there you go. Just to remind you.
Thank you, Matt. I know I'm on my second beer.
That'll be what it is. Yeah.
And that's after cider. Yeah, don't forget to join us next Friday for the show. We'll be back here on YouTube again at 7 p.m. in the evening. And so that's it. Have a great weekend, whatever you're up to. And if you're at Cosford at the air show, come and say hello to me, Nev, and Nick. From me, Carlos here in the home studio, from Matt in the Master Suite studio, the PTUK Master Suite studio, and from Nev in his glorious studio over there in Buckinghamshire. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next Friday. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.